So as we know, Transformers 8 is happening, but here's the thing. Even though it sounds pretty awesome, it might not actually be what the franchise needs right now. Now don't worry if you're not sure why just yet. Stick around and we'll break it all down for you. Plus, we've got a bunch of hints that Transformers 8 could be taking things off Earth for the very first time. So let's get into everything we know so far about Transformers 8. Ready? Let's dive in. Let's kick things off with the big headline. The next Transformers movie does sound pretty awesome on paper. It's got that shiny promise of something fresh and exciting, a crossover with G.I. Joe. That's the kind of team-up that action movie fans dream about. But here's the thing, it might not actually be what the franchise needs right now. Even though it feels like a step forward, it's coming at a time when the Transformers movies are still figuring themselves out, and diving into a crossover could be more of a distraction than a solution. To give some context, the live-action Transformers series is one of the most successful franchises in movie history. At one point, it was a guaranteed box office hit, with 2 of its movies making over $1 billion each. Michael Bay, who launched the whole thing back in 2007, was the driving force behind its explosive success. His style, massive action, fast-paced chaos, and plenty of human characters thrown into the robot wars, became the blueprint for what people expected from Transformers. But things started to shift after Bay stepped away following Transformers: The Last Knight in 2017. That movie made decent money, over $600 million globally, but it marked the beginning of a downward trend. Since then, the franchise has been in sort of an identity crisis, trying to evolve while still being stuck in the shadow of Bay's bombastic legacy. Then came Bumblebee in 2018, which was actually a nice surprise. It scaled things back, focusing more on character and heart, and critics really liked it. Still, even though it was a step in the right direction, it didn't blow up the box office, earning just under $465 million. That's solid, but when you're talking about a Transformers movie, expectations are just naturally higher. Then there was Rise of the Beasts in 2023, which did a little less financially and got a more mixed response. So while these newer films are doing okay, they're not exactly knocking it out of the park. And this brings us back to the G.I. Joe crossover. Rise of the Beasts ended with a big tease. Noah, one of the main human characters, gets pulled into the secretive world of G.I. Joe. That reveal definitely got people talking. It's the kind of moment that hints at a shared universe, something studios love to build toward. But although it's an exciting idea, it's probably not the right move right now. The Transformers franchise is still trying to find its footing. It hasn't quite figured out what it wants to be without Bay at the helm. Even though it's technically moved on from his direct involvement, the new movies still look and feel a lot like his. They're still packed with giant battles, sweeping camera shots, and that familiar blend of robot action and human drama. Because of that, it doesn't yet feel like Transformers has truly stepped into a new era. It's more like a continuation of what came before, just with different directors. So tossing G.I. Joe into the mix at this point could muddy the waters even more. Instead of focusing on building a stronger foundation and clear identity, the franchise might be jumping ahead too fast. It's like trying to decorate the house before you've finished building the walls. Another thing to consider is that we barely know anything about this crossover. Aside from that one teaser at the end of Rise of the Beasts, there hasn't been any major updates or reveals. No cast announcements, no plot details, not even a title. That lack of information is a bit concerning. You'd think a crossover between 2 massive franchises would come with a whole bunch of hype, but the buzz has been surprisingly quiet. That might be because Rise of the Beasts didn't exactly light the world on fire. Critics were mixed, and while some fans enjoyed it, it didn't spark the kind of excitement that usually leads to a giant franchise crossover. So, even though the idea of Transformers and G.I. Joe teaming up is exciting in theory, the reality is that the groundwork just isn't there yet. That said, the world building in Rise of the Beasts does open some interesting doors. For one, it confirmed that there are Transformers spread across the galaxy, not just the familiar Autobots and Decepticons. We got introduced to the Maximals, and we even saw Unicron, the terrifying planet eater, in action. All of this hints at a much bigger universe, and that's a big deal. In fact, it looks like Paramount is leaning into that idea. Transformers 8 and 9 are in development, and they're supposed to form a brand new trilogy that expands on what Rise of the Beasts started. That means we might finally see the Transformers leave Earth behind and explore the wider galaxy. The franchise has always teased that these characters come from far-off worlds, but it hasn't really shown much of that, at least not in live action. So taking the action off-world could be exactly the kind of shakeup the series needs. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Towards the end of Rise of the Beasts, there's a moment where Noah meets Agent Burke, who turns out to be part of G.I. Joe. Burke shows Noah a hidden base full of high-tech gear and futuristic vehicles. It's a clear sign that the Joes have access to some serious resources, possibly even the kind of tech that could help the Autobots reach other planets. If Optimus Prime and the rest of his team can hitch a ride into deep space, they could connect with other Transformer factions, search for more allies, and uncover mysteries about their homeworld. At the same time, taking the fight off Earth would reduce the risk to humans and give the series a new kind of energy. It would shift the focus in a meaningful way, instead of repeating the same formula we've seen before. But again, this is all potential. The problem is that we don't know how much of that will actually make it into the crossover. Will it really dive into the intergalactic side of Transformers lore, or will it be another Earthbound story with added military elements? Until we get more details, it's hard to say. And right now, with the franchise still trying to reinvent itself, taking that kind of gamble might backfire. Plus, let's not forget one huge loose thread, the Decepticons. Rise of the Beasts didn't feature Megatron or his crew, which is kind of odd considering how central they've been to the series. But if G.I. Joe is being added to the mix, you have to wonder, will we also see Cobra? Could we be looking at a tag team of villains, with the Decepticons and Cobra joining forces? That would definitely raise the stakes, but it also risks overwhelming the story. At the end of the day, a crossover like this only works if each franchise is strong enough on its own. Right now, Transformers is still rebuilding. It needs to lock down what it wants to be moving forward. Otherwise, throwing another massive IP into the mix might just add more confusion rather than clarity. So while a Transformers and G.I. Joe movie could be fun, the timing just feels off. It's like trying to launch a new band before everyone's finished tuning their instruments. There's so much potential here, especially with space exploration, new factions, and the chance to really push the universe outward. And for any of that to land, Transformers needs to get its groove back first. Until then, maybe it's better to hold off on the crossovers and focus on telling one great, grounded story at a time. And that's what we have to say about Transformers 8. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below.